The Undercountry Music News is an excerpt of the weekly internet broadcast Undercountry Music, which features music from great country artists you won't hear on mainstream radio, as well as a roundup of the most interesting country music news of the week without all the fluff. To listen and subscribe to the full weekly episode, please visit undercountrymusic.com or simply subscribe to the Undercountry Music Podcast on iTunes. Let's get into it. And I got more good stuff for you because it's time for the Undercountry Music News! The Undercountry Music News is the portion of the show where I go on to the Google, the tubes and wires that transport the information all throughout the underground internet, and I search for the term country music news. And when I search for country music news, I mean it. I go onto all the sites that come up on the first page of Google under that search term, and I look for country music news. Damn it. And what I normally find is a bunch of garbage and carapiola and things that make me want to go, and we'll get to that in a second, though. But anyway, I go to this site and that site, and I can usually find one or two actual news stories in a sea of human interest BS, okay, and press releases. And so I get one or two stories from here, one or two stories from there, a couple stories from over there, and once I've gotten all the essential real country music news of the week, I put it all in a nice little package, tie it up with a bow, and I call it the Undercountry Music News, and I bring it to you. And that's what I do here all the time. And if I go on a website that's supposed to have country music news, purports to have country music news, and they don't have anything but BS, and they're just wasting my frickin' time, I award such websites with the dreaded Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. And it sounds a little something like this. You know what? I had a crab cake for lunch. Crab cake with sugar snap peas and some tepid water. It was pretty darn good, I must say. Anyway, here we go. Let's get into it. Over at CMT Country Music Television, they have... They got nothing. They did nothing. They mailed it in. They did press releases. They did BS. They did human interest stories. They did not do their job. Therefore, they get the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. That's very CMT of them, by the way. It's not anything new. All right. With the taste of belched crab cake still in my mouth, we're going to saunter and shimmy over to thetasteofcountry.com, where Kenny Chesney, there's a story about Kenny Chesney. He has launched No Shoes TV, which is basically a promotion for his concert tour, which will allow viewers to follow Kenny on his tour, get behind the scenes, and also the lady correspondent for No Shoes TV is going to be running around hiding concert tickets and other fun stuff all over the towns they visit and giving upgrades to people's tickets. And I guess you're supposed to be watching No Shoes TV in order to know how to compete for this stuff. It's not really TV either. It just streams off of the website. So there you go. Also, over at Taste of Country, they have a video of Alan Jackson playing the title track of his new upcoming album, Angels and Alcohol, live. And you know what? It sounds like an old honky-tonk classic. That's a mixed bag for me. I mean, there's not a whole lot of new or original to be found in that song, but it was refreshing to hear something with that old classic sound that's brand new. So, you know, I definitely have a bag of mixed feelings about the tune. Hopefully it'll get lots of airplay and get a lot of these bro country listeners into the sounds of real country music again. That would be nice, but I'm not holding my my breath. I mean, I do look forward to seeing what else Mr. Jackson has waiting for us on this album, though. This song, I mean, I give it like a C+. That's all I got for it. But anyway, over at Country Weekly, the George Jones Museum in Nashville has opened to the public, and among the artifacts on display is the infamous lawnmower from the infamous Liquor Run, a restaurant, and also the George Jones Theater, which runs clips from his TV show. Who the hell gave George Jones a TV show? It has all the other stuff every other museum has, of course. Pictures, outfits of his red pickup truck, and more. If you're a possum fan, don't play dead. Get over to Nashtucky and visit the George Jones Museum. Right, and here's a really interesting story involving the country duet Joey and Rory. You may or may not know that Joey and Rory have a song called Josephine, which was inspired by Rory finding some old Civil War era letters from a Confederate soldier to his wife, Josephine. Well, a person who knew of letters from Josephine to her husband, the soldier, whose name was John Robison, stepped forward, and after hearing about this song, now apparently Josephine did something which many other wives did during the Civil War time, which was, a very Mulan thing to do. She cut her hair, put on her husband's clothes, tried to pass herself off as a guy so she could enlist in the army and find her husband. Now, apparently, there were about 1,000 women who actually fought in the Civil War, doing stuff like this. And, well, that's something I never knew. Anyway, back to the story here. Well, Joey and a friend of his have developed a screenplay around this story and have apparently raised $1 million to make this into a full-length movie. Apparently, $1 million is still not enough to complete and distribute this movie, at least they claim. And they have a Kickstarter campaign going, trying to raise 100,000 more for post-production and such. But they're trying to raise $500,000 more so they can do a whole lot more promotion and really go the whole 9 yards on the deal. Now, you can go watch the video about what they're trying to accomplish over at Country Weekly and get involved if you so like. Okay, now, I love the concept of the movie and the story behind it, but I don't want to knock it because it's cool, but, if something inside me saying, well, if they've raised $1 million so far, how the hell is it that they are only $100,000 short and need to go to the public to try and fundraise $100,000? I mean, obviously they knew enough people to get $1 million. You'd think if they're $100,000 short, they could go to the people they raised the $1 million from and get just a one last little final bump. You'd think. Now, I have to believe that they are instead using the Kickstarter campaign as a way to raise anticipation about this project, because honestly, if you're able to raise that kind of cabbage, I've got a real tough time believing you can't scrape up 100 G's more. That stated, I think it's a cool project, and I look forward to the finished product, which I don't believe for a second is in any danger of not actually being completed. Over at the 615, which is a subsection of Billboard.com dedicated to the music goings-on around Nashville and country music, there's a bit of news that I'm astounded most other news outlets completely missed, including our friends at the top who got the belch. Randy Travis has married Ms. Mary Davis, to whom he was engaged before his health crisis happened. These two crazy kids, they tied the knot on March 21st, 2015, and a big congratulations goes out to them both. over at the boot. Sammy Kershaw's kicking up some dust and has signed a new record deal with Cleopatra Records, home of the Oak Ridge Boys, Wanda Jackson, and Glen Campbell. And Sammy will be releasing his new album entitled I Won't Back Down in June. How you like them apples? That'd be a good name for an album. How you like them apples? Whatever. Rolling Stone Country. Not much actual news over at Rolling Stone Country other than a sit-down interview with Willie Nelson about his new brand of marijuana called Willie's Reserve. There's also a good interview with Blackberry Smoke on their recent success that even took them by surprise. Good stuff. Not totally news, but I'm tired of belching. So, with that, this has been your Thank you for listening to the Undercountry Music News. The Undercountry Music News is just a small excerpt of the weekly internet broadcast Undercountry Music, where I play music and have great interviews by lesser-known original country acts. Get on over to undercountrymusic.com where you can listen and subscribe. Stay under, stay country.